What's up, everybody? Mike here, and in this Exile 2 early access video, I'm going to be covering the rest of the endgame systems and mechanics you'll need to know and understand better so you have a better time and experience in endgame. Last video, I essentially went over the game structure and the beginning of endgame as far as the new Atlas map, that kind of being one of the major system mechanics. In this endgame has like 7. It's noted here that the 7 are Breach, Ritual, Delirium, Expedition, a couple of trials that are for ascending, basically, so you get your ascendancy class, and then the last one being Pinnacle Boss. Now, in truth, though, it seems, based on interviewing reports, the endgame at launch will feature 4 core mechanics, those core mechanics being the Breach, Ritual, Delirium, and Expedition, not necessarily the trials or Pinnacle Boss. And these are being described as essentially sequels to the popular PoE 1 systems. The trials themselves are inspired by past PoE leagues that began as ways to earn your ascendancies but evolve into full in-game systems. Then there's the ability to find and fight uber bosses in an ultimate pinnacle encounter as the final test of your build. These systems now all have unique mechanics tied into them. Ritual will earn you a new crafting type that is used to make your other crafting items stronger. For example, while Delirium will grant distilled emotions that can be used to nab passive skill nodes far outside the reach of your typical skill tree progression. And then Roger's going to one of the devs here talking about something he thinks people need to appreciate is important, is that one of the reasons why PoE 1 endgame feels the way it does is because you have the choices about what you want to do. He goes on to say he thinks if you just play the same system over and over again forever, that can really grate on you. Having the variety in the endgame is what makes it work. And the current offering is what the team considered the minimum requirement to fulfill that need. 4 of them work one way and are built into the Atlas, the endless map governing in-game progression, which I went over in a previous video, and 2 of them work a different way with the trials, so they feel different. But let's get into the details of each of these things. Let's start off with Breach. Breach was originally a league in Path of Exile, but has been reprised in PoE 2 as one of its in-game systems. Breach is a tear in the fabric of reality, and open it reveals the otherworldly monsters on the other side. Once open, the radius of the breach begins to expand, but players will need to quickly kill the monsters that emerge from it to keep the breach open. As they progress through Breach's content and complete its pinnacle encounter, players will obtain points that they can add to the breach section of the Atlas tree, thereby increasing Breach's difficulty and rewards. Next up, rituals are sacrificial sites built by the mysterious king in the myths and can be found on specially marked sections on the Atlas. Once encountered, rituals require players to defeat enemies within the altar circle to feed it, upon which they can touch it and trigger the ritual. More monsters will then spawn who must be defeated to gain tribute, which can be spent on powerful items. After completing the pinnacle encounter of a ritual, which is the king in the myths himself, players are granted points so that they can spend these points on the ritual section of the Atlas tree for increased challenge and reward. Then thirdly, Delirium is another modified location occasionally found on the Atlas map that have been touched by insanity. When players touch a mirror in these locations, the mist of Delirium will spread throughout the area. Players must then remain within the mist, but the monsters will become stronger the deeper they travel into the mist. In a sense, it seems to function similarly to a Enshrouded Shroud mechanics. As with several of Path of Exile 2's other in-game systems, players will acquire points for Delirium section on the Atlas tree once they've completed the pinnacle encounter of the map marked by Delirium. Then Expedition is the final in-game system on Path of Exile 2's Atlas tree that sees players digging up mysterious artifacts using explosives. However, using these explosives attracts monsters to the area, so players will have to fight their way through. Players can then exchange the artifacts they find for useful items. Finally, completing the Expedition's pinnacle encounter will grant players a point to spend on the Expedition section of the Atlas tree. Last but not least, though, is the hardest content in PoE 2, the Pinnacle Boss encounters. Players may eventually come across a fortress on the Atlas that is locked until they obtain the 3 keys required to enter it. These keys can be obtained from 3 factions somewhere in the Atlas who all wish to enter the fortress. but this is only possible by first defeating each of the faction's powerful bosses. Unfortunately, failing to defeat a faction's bosses will cause them to move on, thereby requiring players to find them again. Upon gaining access to the fortress, players will participate in the most difficult content Path of Exile 2 has to offer and be rewarded with a point to spend in the Atlas tree for completing it. One thing I want to note here is a final point that I saw in an interview that the devs did with PCGamesIn.com is the ability to import a pre-made build and have it highlight your chosen skill tree nodes as you level up. Roger talked about, I believe we have an implementation of that somewhere, but I don't think it's enabled for early access. It's one of those things that we never got around to fully making good. I'm sure we'll get around to it at some point. So basically saying here that at least at full launch, may not be in early access right away, or may come down the line early access, but hopefully at full launch at least. If you want to import a pre-made build to make it easier on you, it sounds like that's going to be possible, which is awesome. That's all I got for you in this video, guys. Tell me what you think about the information here when it comes to in-game content. Like, what's something you're looking forward to do the most in in-game? Sound off in the comments below, guys. And reminder, PoE 2 drops Friday, December 6th. Probably the time this video goes up, it'll be the day before on a Thursday. And while the game is free to play at its full launch, early access does require a minimum $30 supporter pack if you want to get into it. Unless you're one of the players that have spent more than $480 over the first game's lifetime, you'll be granted automatic entry. But I remember reading this is only for the PC version. Unless they changed it somewhere. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed this and found this helpful and insightful. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to check out the links in the description as well. If you want to join a Discord, there's a Discord link there. If you want to go above and beyond with your support, there is YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as a link to directly donate/tip me if you want to be extra kind in that manner. All that helps keep the channel going so I can keep making awesome content for you guys. But yeah, my name is Mike. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.